So it's week one of the new job as trainee network engineer. And I was assigned my first task, which was that some CCTV had gone down near the security building. The reason it had gone down is that the Cat5 cable going to the camera had been cut. So what we needed to do was re-terminate the cable and reconnect it to the wall port so that the CCTV camera could be made live. I'll go through the process that I went through at the time, and I'll show you some of the hurdles I fell down at, and how I overcame them as well. You'll be able to see here on my table, the first thing I've got, and probably the most important thing, is the right tool for the job. So this tool here is a termination tool. You'll see the various parts of it. So just here, there's a blade which I can use to cut the cable and take the sheath off. And just at the top here, I can put the RJ45 bit, which I'll show you in a second. I can put that in the top, and then when I squeeze it together, you'll see the teeth come out, and that's what pushes the RJ45 into the cable and effectively crimps it. So this is the crimping tool that we'll use for the job. So that's the RJ45 there. You can see at the very top, it's got 8 teeth, and that is what the crimping tool binds into each of the individual wires. You'll also see just next to the 8 pins that are at the top, there's some plastic segways. It's quite hard to see on the camera. Those segways help keep the wires separate. They'll find their own pathway within there before you crimp it, which is really handy, and it's also a good way of being able to check that the color cable matches the pin that you're trying to pair it up with. And over here I've got my category cable, which you can see I've already taken the sheath off using the tool. So I just used the blade part of the tool there to go round and just cut away at the outer rubber. To get the color order of this correct, I'm going to show the 2 standards, which are T-568A. That's less widely used compared to the T568B, which is much more commonly used. You can see that on the right hand side of the picture, or the diagram that's on the screen now. I can move this orange and white over to this side here, because I know that that's where we're going to be starting off. I thought that all of the pairs would be paired up with their striped color. So I thought, because it's a solid blue next, it would be paired up with a striped blue, but that's actually incorrect. The next one, so on pin 3, we want to take the stripe green, and I'm going to bring that over to here and put it next to my orange. So I've got my orange stripe, I've got my orange, I've got my green stripe. The next I'm going to just move the green out of the way. The next color I want is my blue and my blue stripe. So as you'll be able to see, the green is separated from its striped color, and that caught me out the first time I did this. So definitely something to watch out for. I'm just going to bend those down. So I've got my orange stripe, orange. I've got my green stripe. I've got my blue. I've got my blue stripe. And I've got my green. And then we're going to go brown stripe and then solid brown. The best way I found to do this is to separate them all out like that. So it's almost like a peacock opening its feathers. And then we want to... We need to get these ends so that they will all go inside this RJ45. I'll shuffle them together like this. And what I'm going to do is bend them over my index finger on my left hand. Ideally, we'll get these as close as possible to each other without them overlapping. As you can see there, I've bent them over my index finger, and I'm just going to double check the color codes of those. With these bent over my index finger, I'm actually just going to grab the termination tool and use the blade that's on the other side to cut these down to the correct size. And as you'll see, this is a little bit fiddly trying to do them all at once, but again, I'm just going to use my thumb and index finger on my left hand to pinch them all into place. The cut will basically allow me to put the RJ45 bit and crimp it. So if I cut just there, you see them all come off. I'll just make sure all of them are cut straight through and cleanly, which they are by the looks of things. We'll go from the left hand side here, and pin 1 is the striped orange. So I'm just going to feed this through. So now that my RJ45 bit is on, before I crimp or use the crimp tool to bite the teeth into the cables, I'm just going to double check that all of my colors are correct. So if I look at this, it's difficult to see in the camera exactly which colors go where, but I can see that my striped orange is first, and then I go orange. I then go striped green, blue, striped blue, green, striped brown, solid brown. Now what I'm going to do is grab my crimping tool, and I'm happy with how that looks. Now what I do here is I look at the crimping tool, and this might be a little bit difficult to see, but one side of the crimping tool, when I push it in, you can see the teeth rise up. Now I want the teeth to rise up on the side of the RJ45 where my pins are, which is this side. So I'm going to insert it in this direction. I'll put that in like that. And I can see now that when I push this, I'll bring this a little bit closer. We should see the teeth be pinned down against the cable and against those wires. When I squeeze the crimp tool, I want to squeeze it until I hear a slight click, and then I know that that's crimped it enough. So if I do that, and it does need some force to be able to do it, and I'm happy with that, the way that that looks. So I'll take this out, just double check. I'm happy with the way that that's been terminated. And now the most important thing that we can do now is use our cable tester to make sure that all of those pins line up correctly. So I've got my cable tester just here. This was a unit that I bought off Amazon. I think it was about £9 or £10. And what it allows you to do is just check that each of the pins match up to the other side of the category cable. So they've got inputs and outputs here. So you connect one side of the cable to one side, and this detaches. So you connect one side of the cable to this side, and then the other side of the cable to this side. So what it does is it goes through pins 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hopefully you'll be able to see in this angle here. And what will happen when I connect both of sides of the cable, it will flash through pins 1 to 8, and we should see it line up on both readers. So if I put the side I've terminated into there, and I'll put the other side of the cable into this one here, and I'm going to switch that on. Amazing. And as we can see, that's flashing through. And basically what that's doing is just confirming what we know is the case, which is that pins 1, which is the striped orange, matches pins 1 on the other side. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It means that I've confirmed that the termination that I did is successful and that there isn't any crossovers in the cabling. So this is the result that we're looking for. As you can see from our cable tester, all of the pins look like they're terminated correctly, and that's the result that we're looking for at the end of a test like this. Once we carry out a bit of work, we want to do that cable test before we actually plug it in, just to make sure that our cable is good and the pins look like they're registering the correct output. There'll be other use cases where you'll use the other type of wiring diagram, but in this one we're going through the more commonly used one. And in my application, we terminated the Cat5 cable and then we reconnected it to the CCTV camera and it came back online. So ticket resolved.